Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. America in Black and White, of course, is a show um, that seeks to initiate honest conversations about race and foster understanding across communities. I'm your host, Charles King, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Anthony Potter Jr. Let me give you guys a little background about Anthony. Anthony was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, technically Lithonia, but everybody claims Atlanta. From childhood, he dreamed of becoming a doctor and pursued his goal in high school. But a pivotal moment struck during his senior year when he questioned who is going to pay for that. This led Anthony to explore alternative routes. He began working an entry-level job while attending classes at Georgia State University. Balancing work and education proved challenging, especially with student loan debt. In 2015, Anthony secured his healthcare job in pharmacy. Through this experience, he discovered a genuine passion for helping people. Yet, he yearned for a deeper impact on others' lives. In 2020, Anthony embarked on a new journey into finance, starting with the basics of budgeting. As he shared his newfound knowledge with peers, they came to know his favorite phrase, Excel sheet, and hearing quite often, even to this day. In late 2023, he realized that many others likely didn't understand financial principles like him. Now, Anthony is on a mission to share financial education. He hopes to positively impact people's lives by empowering them with the knowledge to secure better financial futures for themselves and their future. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you all to Mr. Anthony Potter Jr.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy Financial Literacy Month.
Yes, sir. And today is what we call Money Thursday. So, is there anything about your bio that you like to add to to the show, so people can know a little bit more other than what was given to them?
Well, let's see. There's a lot more we could go into. I don't know how much time we have, but I that's pretty much a good summary. Graduated high school 2013. Was ready to go on that career path in healthcare. Originally was intending on just going to Emory University, Emory School of Medicine, become a physician, and that did not occur. So I just, at least got a job in healthcare just to make sure I felt like I was in the right path as far as wanting to help people, which I do genuinely believe that. But perhaps now that my life has taken the turn that it has, I can still help people, but just perhaps not from healthcare, but through finance.
All right. Well, look, that's wonderful. And today, I want to make sure that our audience is getting this wonderful information that you're about to teach them on when it comes to finance. Um, so let's go ahead and let's just delve into this. And so tell us, how did your career in finance intersect with your passion,
Well,
for medical?
yes. So I would say they intersect at the guise of both is to help people. In healthcare, you intend to help people through health, getting them to feel better, providing medication, in my case with pharmacy. Whereas through finance, you still intend to help people, but it's more from their financial understanding, making sure they understand how to use their money and how their money can work for them in order to better their lives so that they can do whatever it is they would like to do, not have to be stuck in a job they don't like, can make those types of pivots, can travel, provide all those freedoms that people would enjoy. So,
So when it comes to financial literacy,
Yes.
Tell our audience what are some of the main key things that they need to understand and know and try to put together as principles to guide their lives.
Okay, absolutely. I would say step number one would be to budget. Even if you don't like budgeting, at least just keep a running log of what's coming in and what's going out, being mindful of that. So you can at least see what's coming in, what's going out, and where you can make adjustments. I know a lot of times people say, I get to the end of the month and I don't have any money for this, I don't have any money to save. But which even for myself, when I first started that process, I had a notebook and I wrote everything down. And at the beginning of the following month, I went back and looked through and I was like, oh, I ate out a little bit too much last month. So it just helps you to be more mindful of where your money is going so that you can put it in the areas where you want it to go and to eventually create the future that you want to create with it.
Okay, and what are the other four steps?
Four more. Okay. So aside from that, if you're someone that has debt, I would say you want to get rid of that as quickly as possible. That debt really strangles your budget and your finances when it's not being addressed efficiently. That is another thing. Additionally, making sure you have an adequate amount of savings put away so that if there were any emergencies that pop up in your life, broken car, um, any type of emergency, health emergency, or you have to go to the doctor, anything like that, you just want to have that cushion set aside so that you're not having to put yourself in more debt due to being in that situation. And I would say once those bases are covered, you could look into acquiring assets. One thing I learned from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is the four quadrants. So the fourth quadrant that he talks about is building assets. So that's pretty much purchasing things that will bring you more money. So that can be in real estate, that can be stocks, mutual funds, bonds, things of that nature, just to help set you up for a better financial future and to eventually, earn passive income from those assets that you acquire.
Okay. So, in what ways do you see the financial sector impacting racial disparities in America?
The way I would see it's impacting racial disparities, I would say is I see it as it is expanding in terms of the diversification. With the company in which I work with, I do see a lot more of different demographics. I know typically when we have previously seen finance in years prior, even before I was born, it would be primarily, primarily, based in um, European descendants, but we're seeing a lot more diversification. In terms of the people that we're with, I would say a lot of the individuals on my team were very diverse. We have European descent, we have Latin descent, African descent, Asian descent. So I'm seeing a lot of diversification among people. And just as each group is able to become more aware of the finance and the financial education, they're able to empower their communities so that they can be better off in the future as time goes on.
So, are there any projections or trends that you've seen, or anything that looks like it's up and coming, that the African American community can get a grasp on, and start moving towards making things happen for them?
Yes, I have seen a lot of entrepreneurship within the Black community come up. That is something that I'm very proud of to see and to be a part of as well. That's one thing. Outside of that, I would say just really, I would say there's always room for growth when it comes to that, especially in some of our communities that aren't as what's the proper word? I would say that they're not as fortunate to have a lot more of the technologies and things like that. Some that are like outside of the city, more rural, more suburban, that don't have like maybe the metropolitan resources. I would say in that area, that's a place where a lot more investment can be made, so that the those individuals in those communities can also be brought up and to be on that same level playing field or even higher when it comes to finance and financial education.
So, with for some of those other things, there's those things you mentioned about building up the communities and so forth. What is your recommendation as to finance and how you get like the local municipalities to start investing in those communities and teaching financial literacy for those that need it? What is your suggestion about that?
My suggestion would be to petition the leadership within those communities just to inform them of the current statistics that there is a lack of financial education. I believe the last time I read about it, it was about 1 in 3 individuals is appropriately financially educated throughout the world globally. So I would say just making sure that impact that is communicated with them, and just so they can understand how that would benefit those communities overall. When we're better educated, we make better decisions. When you make better decisions, you get better results. So I would say that would be the best thing to do in that case, and just be consistent with it. Once those endeavors are to be taken, just be consistent with it, because it won't be an overnight change. It would definitely something that takes time.
So, can you share any specific experiences, for instances, where you had to confront racial biases within the financial industry?
Let's see. Racial biases within finance. I would say, well, there was one instance myself personally when, let me not say the name of the place, but I had I did have an account with a specific credit union at one point. And when I was first trying to branch out into entrepreneurship and whatnot, I did inquire about getting, I think I needed to get some checks in order to write a check for whatever it was I was trying to pursue at that time. And the teller did, she did insinuate that I may have been a part of something not morally upright, if you will, which
Oh.
that made me very uncomfortable, because at the time I'm working and I'm putting my money into this establishment, and I'm coming to request a financial product, and you are acting as if I'm committing a crime. So um, needless to say, that account was closed shortly thereafter. But that's that's one of the experience that I have personally had myself, and I know that there are many more that others have experienced throughout the world. Yes.
You know what I hate about that is, like, and let's say for instance, it's not just you, but it could be any Joe Blow, that so happen to be black, African American, however they want to describe us today. You go and you ask for a loan, and everything is good with you, but they still want to make you jump those extra hoops because they want to see you do some tricks before they give you this money. I mean, have you ever experienced something like that, or do you think that that's something that we're trying to find a way to wrap our arms around this in the African American community?
That specific example I have not personally experienced. I am familiar with it via social media. I would say that we, as a community and as a worldwide, I would say everyone is working towards that more integration for everyone, including the financial services industry. Um, Now, how long it could take to for us to see the necessary progression, I can't speak to that. That's something that will come from the open-mindedness of everyone throughout the country, throughout the world. But I would say that there is progress being made. I am familiar now that there are more Black-owned banks, such as, I believe, Citizen Trust Bank is one. I believe I know there's some others that I've looked into. I haven't really researched it, but I do know that there are developments in that area in order to provide, more services that are Black owned and diversified in order to build up the community as well. So I do see the potential for growth there.
Yes. So let me ask you this, because I mean, it's really wonderful to see you embarking on this journey that you're going right now. And I want to know, and if you could just tell our audience, especially the younger people that can relate to you, what is it that you see and you find about financial services or being in finance that you want, that you're going to set as a goal, in order to bring people forward? What are those goals that you're setting?
Okay, the priority goal that I would set or that I have set is providing financial education to all people. That's really inclusive of hopefully one day every family, every person can have their own financial professional, such as myself, or financial advisor, or whatever their title may be, just to guide them along that path. Because a lot of times, especially in the lower demographics that don't have those resources that the wealthy have in terms of the advisors and the management and all of that. So just for each person, each family to have that and understand the options available and understand how that will affect their family and how that will benefit them and their future generations to come, be it whatever different terms. It could be 529 for saving for college. It could be a different type of life insurance policy in order to ensure final benefits and stuff like that. I know one thing that got me more focus into it is when my father unexpectedly passed away about 2 years ago, and he was not insured, and so that cost fell on us as the children. My older siblings covered that, so thankfully I didn't have to come out of pocket on that. So that just made me just be more aware of that as well, and to like also be more convincing and just try to really convey to people the importance of it. Because even though I know a lot of people, they look at it as like, oh, well, I'm leaving, so it doesn't matter. But it's not just about you, it's about how it affects you and your family, where your resources go once you do depart. And there's also some products, such as in the life insurance space, that don't necessarily, they can be used while you're still alive, to benefit yourself, such as acquire assets, as I said earlier, like purchasing real estate and stuff like that. So it's just really getting that knowledge in place with everyone so that they can really make better decisions going forward. Because as many of us know, financial education is not something that is taught in regular school. I think after leaving high school, my I really appreciated my senior year when I took economics, because I want to say our last project, Miss Brown, I remember, hey Miss Brown, if you're watching, was she had us make a budget. That was our final project. She was like, say you got your first job and you're out on your own, you have to pay bills, make a budget based off of the income that you're bringing in and the expenses that you have. And I would say, after becoming an adult, I wish I would have paid a lot more attention to that assignment, because I was like, oh, I didn't account for these, the taxes being taken out and the health insurance being taken out and all of that thing. So, I mean, but again, the more that we know, the better decisions that we can make, and then eventually create the better lives that we all would like for ourselves.
So, is it safe to ask the question? What is your familiarity with some of those products that you mentioned earlier?
I would say my familiarity would be about average. I am studying more to become more of an expert in those areas and get additional licensures to be able to provide that to clients. But yes, so currently I'm mostly familiar with products within the life insurance space, and I'm also familiar with some products within the financial space, such as like our IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 529s, those different types of products, as well as life insurance. And I am actively learning more so that going forward, I'll be able to provide even additional services to clients in the future.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all just heard that. So y'all need this life insurance and you need some of these other things. Make sure you listen at the end for Anthony's information because he's the man that you guys need to be contacting. So, what role do you believe financial literacy plays in empowering marginalized communities?
I would say it really needs to play a more important role, especially when you visit some of those communities and you see some of those standards in living and in just the individuals there is really disheartening. I would say, as far as how to implement that, I know it takes a lot more than it's a lot that would need to go into that, and a lot more minds at the table, if you will, than just the finance piece. But I would say, if at the very least, that would be something to where, if it were provided to all families and everyone had the knowledge to understand, even if you're coming from like a less than situation, just understand that sometimes you do have to make that sacrifice in order to get to the better financial future that it is that you want. Because even for myself, I can attest, I know I'm sitting up here now in, a nice place, and you see the nice Michael Kors on, but I wasn't always in this place. I remember times where, we're staying in hotels, having to stay in extended stays. Sometimes this was more so growing up, not as an adult, of course. Um, lights not being on due to the bills not being paid and things like that. So just really understanding the importance of it, and just understanding that sometimes in the present you do have to cut back in order to create a better future for yourself. But it would be better to make minimal sacrifices to maximize the future than just go without the knowledge. As they say, ignorance is bliss. And to go without that knowledge and then have something very traumatic happen, such as a family member passing away and they're uninsured, and now you have all these expenses, or not balancing your budget and losing your vehicle, losing your home, like any of those tragic situations that could potentially be avoided if they're caught earlier on.
So tell us this, to go along with the financial literacy and the marginalized communities. Does generational wealth have a lot to do with that as well? And if so, how do we get our people to start to listen and learning how to create the generational wealth?
When it comes to generational wealth, I would say, again, very want to start with that literacy. Start with the parents and start teaching that within the household as the children are, like maybe not born, but when they start talking, like really make that a foundational principle. So that's something that they can understand and be aware of. I know my parents did do the best that they knew how with what they taught me. They did teach me a little bit about budgeting and a little bit about investing, but it wasn't enough to where, had the knowledge I have now, I had it then, I would have made a lot more different decisions in my life. I'll say that. Um, and just really normalizing that within the community, within the families. I know one time I went to my local Chick-fil-A to get some food, and I saw a family of European descent, and they were sitting at the table having dinner, and the dad was teaching the kids. They were like, like elementary school age. He was teaching them about money. He's like, okay, so this is how this is invested, and this is how this is this and that. And that really took me aback, because I was like, wow, I never had that type of, sit down at that age to talk about finance like that. So just for those, especially the parents, I would say to just really, if not for themselves, at least to do it for their children, because every parent, I believe, wants their children to do much better than they did. So at least just getting that into them early so they can understand how money works and how to utilize it in order to better themselves, whether it be they want to grow up and own a business or grow up and go to college and stuff like that. They just, so they can understand that, so they don't like have unnecessary struggles, like one thing I learned is when you go to school and you get a refund check, that's not free money. So that's one example there. But just understanding, just understanding how a lot of that works. When you get a credit card and it has that limit on it, and you swipe or tap or go to Amazon or whatever other online store, that money has to be paid back. And if it's not paid back on time, it has to be paid back with interest. So just really just understanding that and just being mindful, like, how will this affect my future? Not just right now with whatever it is that I want to purchase or whatnot.
So, what strategies or initiatives have you implemented to promote financial inclusion and equal access to economic opportunities?
Well, I would say what I am actively working on, I have started my YouTube channel within finance. I had it before, but it wasn't about finance, and then I fell off. So that's one thing that I'm doing, to where the things that I'm learning to teach it there, so that people can, have that as a resource in order to better their financial education. I will also say, just within my own circle, my own network of people, just also trying to share with them what it is that I'm learning, how it's affecting me and benefiting me, and how I believe that it can impact them in a positive way. Now, of course, everyone's not receptive to that, but at least extending that offer to them so that they can be, better off in their future, or at least have the idea where they're like, let me ask Anthony about this. What would he do in this situation? And just keep that communication open, because sometimes finance can be a bit of a taboo topic, especially if you're in a situation and you don't want to share that because you feel embarrassed or anything like that. It's just really being open and honest, and just understanding that we're all here to help each other. So,
So, well, what do you think are some of the strategies that people should be using?
in terms of building financial literacy, or in terms of improving.
This is just and the financial inclusion to get the equal access to the opportunities. What are some of the strategies that people should be using?
Okay. Well, when it comes to the inclusion aspect of it, I would say that would be really something to petition community leaders, so whatever mayor, governor, whatever, just to see if there's a way in order to get that information to be standardized, maybe get them to change education within school to include, like, topics or assignments for the children to learn about finance in order to instill that. Also, there could be just starting groups and circles with each other on, like, can make a Facebook group or something, like, join our group to, for financial inspiration, stuff like that. Maybe, if however you want to divide it up, maybe single mom group that talks about money, could be a dad group to talk about money. It could be a singles group to talk about money, and maybe date, since everybody's single. I don't know, but but yeah, just really having the open communication there, with just having that open communication. That's really one of the best things that I have learned, especially recently in my life, is the power of communication and connecting with people.
So, would you say, as you were like given those strategies and so forth, um, what would you think would be a good technique that you could actually implement this to people, and people would really just find something fascinating about it, that there's something that catches the attention?
Well, I would say one example is always, um, maybe not, how do I want to phrase it? I guess showing people that you can acquire nice things without necessarily jeopardizing the actual money aspect of it. That's one way, because I know that tends to pique people's curiosity when they see you have something nice. They tend to ask, "Oh, how were you able to get this?" And stuff like that. So that could be a way to pique curiosity. And I would just also say, um, I would say just being upfront with it, because a lot of times again, especially when your financial situation isn't as good as you would like it to be, you particularly don't care to talk about it because it makes you feel better to not address it. But not addressing it doesn't make it go away. It's when you address it and take the necessary action in order to improve the situation. So just really taking action.
Okay. How can the financial industry work towards eliminating systemic barriers that hinder the economic advancement of people of color?
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. I feel like I need a Martin Luther King or someone to answer that. But I would say really just well, first to starting with making sure that those members that are number one, I think every company should have some type of DEI sector. For those that don't know, diversity, equity, inclusion. Um, that would be a good start to make sure that we're incorporating all people and making sure that we're not making it seem as though certain sectors of people are being left out because they aren't a certain group. That would be number one. Outside of that, I would say it would be beneficial to those different companies to also provide some type of education to customers, maybe like a weekly Zoom call, some type of, like a kids' day or something like that to be more engaged in that sharing of knowledge. Because when more people have that knowledge, there will be more people that are find it necessary to use those products because most people are familiar with checking, savings, that's it. But then, like, when you go to a different level of people, they're more familiar with IRAs, Roths, 401ks, the importance of investing, get your 100% employer match if that's available to you. You have another section of people that they're familiar with that, but then they're also familiar with the power of life insurance and wealth management and estate planning and things like that. So I would say if it's like it shrinks the more you go up when it's those different topics like that. But if it's really just all the information is just brought to all levels of people and taught in a way in which it can be understandable, because that's another thing that I've also noticed is sometimes the information can be provided, but if it's not provided in a way to where the average person can understand it, it can be confusing or it can feel like you're attempting to trick them because it's like, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'm not going to listen. So just really breaking things down in layman's terms to where it's understandable to the average person so that they can make a more informed decision or at least, do their own research in the future so that they can eventually make a decision to look into those types of opportunities for themselves.
So, I remember you mentioned earlier about your YouTube channel. What is it that you feel like, when it comes to, the information that you're giving on your channel? Um, do you think about this in steps and phases and like how you actually get people to come to your channel, or are you kind of like still kind of like putting the mix together before you actually concretely dilute it to step 1 to like 10 or 15 and you carry out the process?
I would say right now it is a bit more of I would say it is more of an advanced process. I would say we're in April now. I have like all my videos planned for April, so one for next week Wednesday and the following Wednesday. And the way I'm structuring it is to go in order of um the information, like kind of like building a foundation, if you will. So right now I'm focusing on the life insurance aspect of it. Of course, I'll incorporate in other areas of finance as time goes on. But so, like for this week's episode, it was just explaining what it is, why it's important, and the different types that are available. Next week, I'll be going into the specifications of each type. The following week, I'll be going into some of the different terminology that is used and breaking those down more so that for people that are learning about this and may go seek it out, whether with me or with anyone or another company or such, that when they're hearing these terms, they understand what it means and it's not sounding like a foreign language to them. Because again, what was that one statement that I heard? I believe it's that complexity kills. So when you just make things simple and make it like digestible and understandable, that's really what'll make it, more accessible for everyone. And that's some of the steps I'm taking myself.
Okay, and so what is the title of your YouTube channel, and how can people find that on YouTube?
It's my name, Anthony Potter Jr.
Just Anthony Potter Jr.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell us, have you encountered any challenges in advocating for racial equality within the financial sector? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Let's see. Have I seen any? Not to my knowledge, or at least if I did, I was not aware of it because I know we're more aware of certain things in this age, but there are still some of those biases that do exist. So I would say I have not, outside of that one incident with that one credit union. I haven't really seen that. Again, with like the company I work with, I do see a lot of diversity within our team members there. So that is one thing. And even in my own endeavors into personal finance, I don't think I've had any experiences like that. I know sometimes I've experienced like things that didn't make sense. For example, towards the end of last year, when I was learning more about adjusting my budget into a way to where it would be even more beneficial, I had saw another finance YouTuber, and he was talking about how he uses two checking accounts, where he has one where the money goes in, one where like money comes in the ACH transfers, so like your rent, your car notes, those types of bills come out of that same account. And then he has a separate account for his just regular spending, like groceries, gas, things like that. I was like, that's interesting. Let me try that. And at the institution I was with, when I went to set it up, they were telling me, oh, if you don't have this amount set up for direct deposit, we're going to charge you however much the fee was a month. And I was like, what? But then I went to another institution and I found it's like, oh, there's no charge for that. We actually provide you interest. And I was like, I've never heard of checking accounts having interest. I thought it was just savings accounts. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad I learned about this. Again, that was a situation where that account was expeditiously closed. And then also just what else have I learned? I know I've improved with my utilization of savings accounts over the years. At first it was just, oh, where the bank you have your checking account, have a savings account there. But after doing further research, a lot of the online banks, they actually they actually provide higher interest rates, even though they don't have, actual brick and mortar buildings. But that has been much more impactful to me because I think right now my savings is at a 5% interest rate, which I know in these days and times is unheard of. So, yeah.
And so, I don't know if this is the institution or not, but I'm going to tell you, I used to bank with Bank of America, and they are the fee kings. They charge you a fee for everything.
Oh.
Everything. You even had to pay to talk to the teller about your money. I quickly closed that account. Can you offer any advice for aspiring financial professionals from underrepresented backgrounds who may face unique obstacles in their careers?
I would say network. Networking is very important. Networking is what has actually helped me and actually helped provide me with the career that I'm in now in whew, finance. Got to get my words together. But yeah, I would say definitely network and definitely look into mentorship, into coaching, because those people that provide that, that can really help expedite your growth within not just finance, but with anything. If you can find somebody that's done it before you and they can teach it to you and they're willing to do so, that can really help expedite your growth within that field. I would say that would be the most important thing: network and get a coach slash mentor.
Well, that's actually that's really good advice. But I want to ask you something else that goes a little bit further into that. When you talk to people, when you're on your YouTube channel and you're doing your coaching and teaching and so forth, have you had a situation that once you got going and people need to learn, let's say, about taxes? Have you gotten the opportunity yet to delve into the taxes and the many facets that people are taxed, how they're taxed, and ways that they don't have to be taxed yet?
I have not personally on my own channel, but I am familiar with a lot of those things, such as that those people who work within like 9 to 5 jobs for companies, they are the ones that are taxed at a higher tax bracket, followed by, I believe it was the business owners are the ones that are next up, that they are taxed less than the workers, and then following the investors. So I would say that's really important for people to know as well, to understand that you can legally reduce your tax obligation depending on the way in which you do earn your income.
And so, when it comes to taxes, do you know any of a couple of products that you're going to be studying and carrying over that you're going to be dishing out to your clients? Do you know of any of those in particular that's got any kind of tax deferment that people might want to know about?
One product I know that is heavily promoted within my company is called an index universal life insurance policy. So within that policy, you can now it's not investing. It appears to be investing the way that the money grows, but with one of those policies, the money that you pay into your premium, the growth of it mirrors the index of the stock market, like the S&P 500, for example. So depending on whatever that went up, your account will go up by that amount. It's a certain cutoff, I believe, like 10 or 12%, somewhere in there. Now, if there were ever to be a time where the market went down, you wouldn't lose anything on that policy because it's a floor set for that. So that would be, I would say, the most popular product that is offered to provide clients with that security. Also, this that's really something that I also didn't know about previously, was used by like some of the wealthy families that we know, like for example, the Rockefellers. They use that in a term that's called infinite banking. So within that type of product, you can, after it accrues up for a certain amount of time, you're able to be loaned money from it. It does have to be paid back. Well, it's supposed to be paid back, but if it's not, it'll just be deducted from however much amount of your death benefit is. So that's really the most popular product that does that. And then there's also things in there where you can, take some money out and buy a rental property, and then now you have income coming from the rental property and you can pay it back, and then that way it just continues to accrue. Is When you take the money out of it, it's like you're essentially borrowing from yourself, but in a way in which you're still accountable to pay it back, because we borrow from ourselves if you take money out your savings account, but if you don't put it back, there's no consequence to it. It's just you don't have the money there. So I would say that's the number one product that I'm seeing that people are using.
Well, it sounds like with a product like that that's tax deferred, it sounds like something that a lot of people need to be looking at. But do you think most people have the discipline to let the money grow?
Eventually you have to learn that because generally you don't just get it and then you can take out. You have to be making deposits for at least, depending on your policy and how much you are depositing, it could be a year or two or three before you even have access to do that. And the longer you let the policy sit, the more it grows. So if you take out, you're lessening the growth that it could potentially have. So I would say um, to have more financial education to go along with it, just to understand like the not just the utilizations of it, but to use it in a strategic way. Not just, oh, there's some extra money in there. Let me take this out and go buy a car. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not what that's for. That's for that's for to set you up and to set your family up for like the better your future in case there's any emergency or something like that. Like something that's a want that it should not go to that. That's something that needs to come from regular savings and regular checking, not from a product like that. No.
Sounds like you're going to be doing a lot of financial planning for people too.
Absolutely. I was looking into it today on how I want to scale to my next level within my career, be it coming CFA, certified chartered financial analyst, or consulting, or the other career opportunities within there based on you have to do the different education and the different years of experience. So I have been looking into that today of how I want to grow and as I grow, continue to provide more to people in the future.
So, what steps can financial institutions take to encourage diversity and inclusion
Mhm.
within their organizations?
Well, again, I would say that comes back to being mindful, being aware of, how your company looks, at terms as from the top down, and just when you're mindful of that, making adjustments in order to make all feel welcome within there. Because I know there have been times where I have been within companies and the top looks nothing like me, and then I'm very confused, and I'm like, okay, like, like the top doesn't look like me, but the bottom entry level mostly looks like me. So then I'd be really confused. So I would say just being mindful of that and just making sure that now nobody's saying you gotta just be mindful and be open and just really try to lead with that inclusion at the forefront. Not something happens or somebody files a suit and, oh, now we're going to adjust now since this happens. Like, no, 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 you should have been doing that already. So just I would encourage those entities to be mindful of the people that they serve and to try to um, incorporate them into their plans.
Well, that is definitely, you know, a really tough chunk because when you think about it, true enough, as you say, they're the people that's down there at the bottom are the people that are the worker bees, and normally that workforce is normally minority. And so when you look at the upper crust and you see the people that you see there, like when you think about your financial status, do you think that these people are thinking about that at all, or do you think that it's just a status quo?
Um, I don't think they're thinking about that. If they were, we probably wouldn't be talking about it right now. So I think it's very apparent, unfortunately. But again, I do hope that all those institutions that they do eventually become more open to that, because especially in this social media age is very easy and quickly to removes oneself from a corporation. Depending on who posts what, you could, as they say, be canceled. So I would say to just really be mindful of that. That would be the best thing for me for them to do, is just to be mindful of that. Just really be mindful and aware. Self-awareness is amazing.
Well, I'm going to tell you this because you said a very key word as well. And I was supposed to mention this before, but when you mentioned mindfulness, because most people don't actually know what that means. When you're mindful of yourself, situations, or people, you're in the present moment. So if you're in the present moment, and we're all about this growth of diversity and equity, we're also about everybody having a fair share. But it seems like for most people and most companies, especially the ones that are privileged, they don't think in a mindful way because it's all about me, because it's always been this way.
Hmm.
So I think when, like, let's say when you're getting ready to set up your company, okay, when you're setting up your company, are you going to be mindful about situations of inclusion to make your business grow? Or are you going to use these companies as a model for what you want your company to be?
I would say in my case, I would do a combination of the two, taking from the one that's not mindful in terms of like the strategies that they've used towards their success, but then also my background of where I come from, as coming from Black, not financially educated area, to be more mindful of that, because I know sometimes, especially within certain areas, like particularly politics, but I don't I try to, certain individuals, when they get to a certain point, it's like they forget about where they've come from and they lose
Mhm.
touch with that. And it's just really important to remember where you started. Not to say you have to stay there, but just to understand that that is where you come from, and to use your influence and your power in order to positively impact them as well as everyone else. Not saying to just focus solely on them, but just be mindful of them and be inclusive of everyone.
So is it that your company, once it's really flourishing and you establish it the way you want to, are you going to be more about finance, or are you going to be doing more so with your products that you're going to have this inclusion of the financial part? And how is that going to work? What's going to be the functionality of that?
Okay. I would say for myself, again, to just start with the mindfulness, to being aware of, who it is that's coming in, what their mindset is, how they operate, how do they view those types of situations, and just making sure that there's alignment there. I know, after reading the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, to lead with what it is that the reason for why you want to do what you do. So just understanding that and making sure that the whys match, because if they don't, that's when you see things not line up like they should. One of the examples, or actually two of the examples that he gave in the book that I know I've noticed to this day, were Walmart and Apple. So with Apple, he gives the example of how they're innovative, how they're creative, how they, go against the grain in terms of what they make, how Steve Jobs was able to modernize all these different sectors of phones, technology, music, computers, like with that mindset and going in that route. And so now we see, every, what is it, every September, they have a new phone coming out and people line up every year to get that new phone. So that's like the example of using the why in a good way. And also, with Walmart, there was how when Sam Walton was alive, he wanted it to be about, serving the common everyday person. That's why, although he had the wealth that he had, he still tried to be, in touch with the people, such as I think driving his pickup truck and wearing like regular hats and stuff like that. Whereas we see it now with the people that are running it, it's more of just squeeze everything you can get out of it, if you will, and not really that connection with the consumer as it was before. Now, of course, they're still a very successful company, multi-billion, but it's still not the same as when Sam Walton was present. And so it's just like for myself, I don't care for Walmart. I haven't shopped at Walmart in 10 years. Now that I think about it. So that I know I'm mindful of that. I haven't shopped at one in 10 years. So yeah, I'll be at Target all day. But yeah, so that's just that's just an example of how that having that clear leadership and making sure you're being aware of that with everyone in the organization, how that can either go good or go bad depending on the way in which it comes from the head down.
Now, this is going to be a definitely big loaded question for you.
Oh,
Okay, with you looking at the human capital and recruitment that you're going to be doing in order to build your company, your brand, what is it that people need to know about Anthony Potter Jr. that's going to make them want to work for him?
well, number one is I believe in being an inspiration to other people. Um, Again, outside of finance, there is so much that I would love to share about myself, but I'm like, let me be mindful of my time. But just to be an inspiration to people and to just help people understand that whatever it is that you want in life, you can create that for. Let me go on a tangent for just to give an example. For example, you see my hair is long, curly, is some blonde and some browns, like a little ombre thing. When growing up, I was told, "Oh, your hair nappy. Oh, you ain't got good hair." Da, 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 da. So I went all these years thinking, "Oh, I can't. I don't have the looser type curls like this person or straight hair like this person." So I thought my hair wasn't good enough until I started to go on my own journey with that and learn about it and learn different products and different techniques to where now, which I was so proud that people were like, "Oh my God, I love your hair. It's so nice." And I'm like, wow, like you can really, whatever you want in life, you can make it. Cause I'm like, if I would just listen to the people back in the day, I'd probably be walking around cue ball with no hair or something because I'm like, oh, they said I couldn't do it. So that's just an example. So one, lead with inspiration to understand you can do anything. Two is to be open-minded. That's one thing that that it's I can't do the closed-mindedness because you can't grow that way. You have to be open-minded and open to new opportunities, new possibilities, trying something a new way, even if you may think it may not work. But if there's, a legitimate reason and it could potentially help the situation, at least give it a try and just see how it can result. So I would say that would be very important, as well as to be open-minded and just um, and don't stress because stress is so toxic. It stress kills the body. Stress causes disease, make your stomach hurt, make your hair fall out, make you sick. Just don't stress. If it's not within your control, just let it be because it's gonna do what it's gonna do. For me, especially, I only and I don't even stress. Like if I feel like there's something where I'm getting stressed, I'm like, oh, hold on, what is this? Like we don't stress, we don't do that. But because you can only control what's within your control. Like if somebody cuts you off in traffic, why get mad? They're driving their car, you're driving yours. I know for me, I just turn my music up louder. So I just that's those are I would say those would be my foundational principles as of now. Would just really be that mindfulness, open-minded, inclusive, and just and don't stress because that stress. is-
Just
I've,
don't do it.
I've stressed about so many things in life, and now I'm at the age that I'm at now. I'm like, why? What? Why were you so concerned? Like, it's you ain't had no control over it. So I mean, it went the same way anyway. You up here worried about, oh my god, like no, you could have just been chill and drunk you some water and just went on with life. Because I mean, honestly, another thing that I've learned with life is that it'll really life teaches us a lot of unexpected things. So even if you're trying to stress and be controlling, I got to do it this way, I got to do it like this. Da, 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 life will come through and be like, oh, really? And then boom, something completely different. So that's don't stress. If you remember one, only remember one thing is don't stress because stress kills. So
Mhm. So you guys just heard it for yourself. This up and coming young man here that's about to go on this financial journey where he's going to be teaching financial literacy. He's also about to build with financial products, which include insurance, that is going to be helping an enormous amount of people because that's what people need in life. And it's like, I think, for those principles and those things that you think are most important when it comes to building, those are really, really good points. I hope you stay on task because I know that that's going to be a very it's going to be a tough thing, but it's always able to be attained, But finding those people is going to be very, very special, and I'm more than sure that you'll be able to do that. Um, and so, I got one more question for you before we're going to let you get out of here. How can corporate America better support entrepreneurs of color in gaining access to capital and resources?
I would say to make it more available because I know I see a lot of like entrepreneurs in my Instagram feed and they're like, oh, there's these grants available and stuff like that. And I would think, I know I see it some, I've mostly seen it more so targeted to women in terms of women entrepreneurship and different companies providing those opportunities, but just really those companies that, have the capital available to utilize it for those purposes. Because that's honestly what helps stimulate the economy is these new companies, these new entrepreneurs with their great ideas that are building these successful companies, things of that nature. So just again, I think that's also a mindfulness thing as well because that could be a very impactful partnership for those institutions. That could be an entrepreneur that needs capital in order to launch whatever product or service. That could be a service that that company could end up benefiting from in the future, and they have a very successful partnership with that just because they provided that seed money, that seed capital. So again, it would just come down to that mindfulness, I would say.
Okay. And let's see, if you could tell our folks what message that you like to convey to young adults, particularly those from marginalized backgrounds who aspire to enter the finance industry to make a difference.
I would say to start with educating yourself first. I know for myself, it started with YouTube. It started with, just again back to back to mindfulness. Just noticing, like, why why is this like this? Why is this like that? And then just exploring and looking for that knowledge. I know I started with looking into budgeting, and then it went from budgeting to learning about different financial products, different financial services, different. It's really such a wealth of knowledge that we have available to us, especially in this technological age. I know when people of older generations, they talk about how it's just the library and books and stuff like that. So we really do have a lot of information available to us, and we just have to utilize it for those purposes.
Well, do you have any closing statements or anything you'd like to say to our audience before we close the show?
Well, I would just encourage everyone to spread positivity, because what you give, it comes back to you. And I can tell in my life, since I've become more positive and more mindful of that, just trying to give positivity and not to give it with the expectation of getting something, but just give it because you're like, you know what, this is a good thing for me to do. Let me do this. And then sometimes you get things, blessings that you didn't even anticipate from that. So give give positivity from your heart, genuinely. Don't force it, like genuinely. That's the thing that I would say. And um just be open to learning new things, because had I not been open to learning about finance, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. So just be open to learning and give positivity.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have it here for Money Thursday. We just had this wonderful show with Mr. Anthony Potter Jr., who is giving you lots and lots of nuggets for people to take away to help start their lives on a nice financial journey and a path of prosperity. I want to thank each and every last one of you that have joined us this evening, that's watched the show. You've liked it. Well, we're glad that you're here. But if you're watching from the YouTube channel, I would like to ask each of you to make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and you also hit that little bell for the notifications, because every time we upload a show, if you don't get a chance to see it, you can always go back and see it, and you know that it'll be there. Mr. Potter, I want to thank you for being here on the show tonight, and I hope that we could have you back again. And it's been truly, truly wonderful, and I want to thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me as well. I've enjoyed myself, and I would love to come back many times to just impact as many people as possible in a positive way. And yes, thank you. Thank you. That's yes.
Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you next time. See you